What's going on YouTube? This is Jim Afanis, and today I want to talk to you guys about The Division. In case you couldn't tell, I'm using a little bit different head setup today. My Blue Yeti's been boxed away as we move around some furniture, but I did resurrect my wife's Sennheiser Game 1s, which look pretty damn badass, I do say so myself, and they sound pretty good on the microphone. I tweaked them around a little bit, so you probably may hear a little bit of breathing or stuttering. The stammering is completely my own fault, though. It has nothing to do with the tech. With that out of the way, I want to talk to you guys about The Division. Now, you guys saw my video a few days ago where I played during the Xbox One exclusive one-day beta, and that was tons of fun. Primarily, I focused on the single-player version of that because my only Xbox friend, Brent, was nowhere to be found, and I had to venture into New York City alone. And I had a great time with that. The questing system and just the general gameplay and look and feel got a really good sense for what it was about. The next day, I jumped over to the PC and I played with my fellow PC Master Race brethren. And that was more squad-based because we had a couple people to play with. And that was where I really got to explore more of the Dark Zone, and I really got a much better sense for what the game could be in a team-based setting. So the difficulty does scale up when you're playing on multiplayer as opposed to single player, so everybody's going to be even harder. So again, that's kind of weird seeing a guy that you're going to riddle with bullets for 30 to 45 seconds if he's a higher level boss, and he's just going to stand there and eat the shots, which is a little weird. You have to suspend disbelief, which is kind of hard because the game is very, very, very hyper realistic in terms of the looks, the feel, the sights, the sound of the city, yet there's some guys in the game, because of the RPG element of the game, that are just going to take a complete shellacking and keep on coming. So you're going to have to get used to that. But outside of that, the multiplayer does scale up nicely. All the loot you do get is your own. And we spent a majority of our 6 hours in one game session. I know, we're crazy. Going to bed at 3 o'clock like weirdos. Playing through the Dark Zone. And that's where most of the fun is to be had. I believe that is where the end game content is going to ultimately lie. They haven't announced, or I'm not aware of, any kind of single player challenges a la like Destiny had the Vault of Glass or something like that. I'm sure there's going to be something for the PvE brethren, but for the PvP, the guys like me who like going out there and just interacting with the wild, this is tons of fun. Now, we cheated a little bit because we used TeamSpeak on the other on the background, so we were always in constant communication with each other, and we had push to talk enabled when we needed it to communicate, because as you guys know, the game has local voice. Very similar to like what Rust has done, where your microphone, if left open, will broadcast in a small area around you for other players to hear. So we were able to kind of keep it on the down low, and then when we wanted to open up and talk to other players, with a snap of a button, boom, we were out there live. Now, I use my Xbox One Elite controller. That thing worked marvelously in gameplay. The vibration, the analog sticks, everything was crisp and amazing. I didn't have to toggle between run or walk like my friends on the keyboard did. Maybe my aiming wasn't as good as people on the mouse, but this game isn't overly tactical in terms of really snap shooting, not like a Call of Duty type game where you need really crystal clear, crisp shots. Everything is cover-based and slow and methodical, and positioning is just as important as gunplay. So I didn't really see any difference there, but that didn't really matter in the Dark Zone because we were dicks. And we went out and just slayed and murdered all people. And by setting up good vantage points, I didn't have to be really crisp or quick with my aiming. And we all kind of took turns being the aggressor, which was actually quite fun. We went in waves. We were kind of nice, then we were kind of mean, then we were kind of nice again. We were the griefers for a while, and then we were just the full-blown assholes. And it was fun to experience all different pieces of that. Some of the most fun is having a guy set up way down the street with a sniper rifle, while somebody like me would walk up and kind of harass, see if we can get something going, and then unsuspecting people would get dropped, and it was really a lot of fun. But there are some downsides to the Dark Zone, and that's primarily what I wanted to focus on in the last half of my video today, because there are a couple takeaways from this area that I think really need to be addressed prior to the game launching, I believe March 8th or 9th, so they got a little bit of time to tweak this. I don't know what extent this beta was just a stress test and to what extent it was genuine player feedback, but I'm going to go ahead and leave it for Ubisoft. I'm going to post it on Twitter. Hopefully somebody from there gets to check it out, and maybe they take some of my opinions and incorporate them into the final build of the game. Number one is there needs to be more enemy density, not just in the Dark Zone, but everywhere. The city is hyper-realistic. It's amazing. You have smoke coming up through the grates. You have snowfall on the PC that's just really vibrant. Gunplay, the way your breath comes out of your mouth, breath comes out of your bullets, like the tip of your gun smokes a little bit. Hyper-realistic. It's fun to go off and explore and see the world. But it's not so much fun when after a couple minutes, that's all you're doing. You have to go 3 or 4 city blocks to find an engagement, and there are quite a few in the game that are already kind of programmed, not so much procedurally generated, but like every time you go to this area, there will be a hostage situation, or you will have to defend the caravan, or what have you. But just in the general interaction of the world, there's just not enough enemies, and there needs to be more. There needs to be more things to kill. They don't necessarily have to lead to more loot. If they feel that that means you're going to just be able to grind out loot and money and stuff, and they don't want to do that, that's fine. But there needs to be more to do, and there's not. And that's lacking in both regular play, but especially in the Dark Zone, where you're running around for a very long time finding nothing to kill. And it's just, there needs to be more density. Number 2 is actually exclusive to the Dark Zone, and I believe the problem there is the whole going rogue mechanic. So going rogue is shooting another Division agent and basically beginning to try to do a team kill. If you are the attacked and you go on the aggressive side and you want to like defend yourself, you won't go rogue in that situation. But more often than not, you will come across 2 groups of people that are both red, and if you are able to quickly figure out what happened, you could team up and do a 6-on-3 or something like that, or just try to wipe all 6 of them out and keep all the loot for yourself, which is a lot of fun. We've done that a few times too. But typically, when you enter these situations, you're kind of fighting for your life, and it is hectic, and it's supposed to be, again, in the vein of hyper-realism, not necessarily knowing who is what. You know, if you were in a war zone situation, an enemy's not going to walk up to you with like a big red placard over his head that says, "Hi, I'm the enemy." So you're not going to have that. So I understand that that kind of needs to be preserved, but at the same time, it's very difficult to figure out what's going on. And the way the HUD is laid out, it's difficult to kind of tell who is the aggressor, who wasn't the aggressor, and especially in gunfights when it's hot and heavy, you are more than not going to accidentally shoot a friendly. Now, there is a very, very small grace period. I think if you have a pistol and you shoot maybe 2 or 3 shots, you will be able to remain in the clear. But anything more than that, you're going to go rogue yourself. And more often than not, as soon as the enemy is vanquished, they're going to turn on you because the action was so hot and heavy, nobody knows what the hell was going on, and it's just going to turn into a freaking bloodbath. And I feel like there needs to be more input or more player interaction with how that rogue system works to understand kind of who was the aggressor and how that worked, why did it happen, why did things go down the way they did, and there needs to be more of a leniency on people who accidentally go rogue. Now, for the people that legitimately are out there just going out like we were earlier, just to be flat out dicks and just kill everybody, the penalty for being rogue isn't necessarily that great. You're only rogue for 50 to 60 seconds at a time, which isn't really that much considering you can pretty much run infinitely without any sort of stamina, any penalty to being hurt. So as long as you have a long enough lead on somebody, they will never ever catch you. And that is kind of my third gripe, that I feel like if we're going to play this kind of game where people can take pot shots and run away basically unscathed, there needs to be more input in terms of maybe leg shots do more damage and slow characters down. I'm not in favor of a stamina meter only because the game requires a pretty significant amount of running just when you're playing the single player experience, and constantly stopping to get stamina just seems really, really boring. But especially in player versus player, there needs to be some sort of mechanic that's laid on top of the existing mechanic that makes player versus player combat feel more meaningful. because right now you're getting pot shots from people and they just run away and there's nothing you can do about it. And they don't stay rogue long enough for you to chase them down. All they have to do is zigzag in and out of the streets. And if they sneak up on you and they manage to get one of your teammates down, you resurrect, you all start chasing the guy and he just gets away. It really isn't a lot of fun and it really isn't very rewarding. Now, it is fun when you do get to kill somebody and take their stuff and then go try to get the extraction zone where things get hot and heavy. And that's where some of the most tense and exciting moments of the game, in my opinion, start to come in, especially when everybody's standing around and nobody's gone rogue yet as the helicopter slowly descends and everybody's waiting to see what's going to happen. Some of those moments are by far the most fun in the game. But when things get hot and heavy, when the gunfire starts, that's where, to me, the game starts to fall apart slightly. And I think that there needs to be more consideration put into that kind of environment to make it a little bit more fun and make it a little bit more accessible and understanding. The penalty when you are just completely flat out ganked, you do lose a little bit of experience if you die. The players that gank you mostly get away unscathed because most people don't want to mess with higher level characters. And again, that's where I feel like if there was some other mechanic laid on top of that, maybe lower level characters could stand a chance against higher level characters. I can tell you in playing by myself, a level 7 at the time, I single-handedly dispatched a 4-man team of 5. Now, maybe they sucked. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm a god by any means in this game, although the Xbox One Elite controller does make me feel that way. But I was able to see a huge level differential. I did have some pretty powerful weaponry. I took 2 guys out with a single grenade. I was able to down another guy with a shotgun, and then I finished off the other guy with an SMG. And I didn't really feel like I was threatened very much. I seemed to be in control of the battle at most times. And I feel like if there was maybe a mechanic that made me more of a villain to the rest of the players in the darkness zone, or the dark zone rather, maybe I would have not done that. But I killed them, I took all their loot, and then I just stood around and waited for something to happen, and nothing ever did. Again, it's a beta, I understand, but I hope some of that polish goes into it. Closing thoughts on this game. It is going to be amazing. I'm so excited to participate in this beta, so it was really a lot of fun. I was very in a unique position. I got to play it on both the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and the PC. I've canceled my PlayStation 4 Collector's Edition pre-order, and I've put all my eggs into the PC edition. I'm very excited for that. There's a lot of changes in the PC edition in terms of graphics, something that I felt was missing from other Ubisoft games, especially with the whole console parity thing. I was able to really get a lot out of my graphics card. I'm running a 970, and everything ran on high. I was probably in the 65 to 70 frames per second range. Everything looked gorgeous. Everything was maxed out, and you really noticed a lot of the detail that was missing in the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox One version, especially, did I say PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4? The PlayStation version and the Xbox version. There was a lot of stutter on the Xbox One that I didn't necessarily notice with the PlayStation 4 version, which was a little frustrating because when you're running around and every 5 or 6 seconds the game is loading or buffering or whatever it's doing, it is a little frustrating. So maybe that's something they can resolve in a patch or something like that. I didn't notice that as much as the PlayStation 4 version, but on both console versions versus the PC, I did definitely notice significant more pop-ins, especially draw distance was crucial. And as you start getting into the end game and you want to start speccing more as a sniper, and especially in our situation where we had Kevin way down the street waiting to pick off unsuspecting division agents, it was a lot easier for him to do so with the higher draw distance, and the textures were a lot more clear, and it was a lot easier to tell what was going on the horizon, as opposed to the other console version. When I played, I had a very hard time with the scope, getting downwind and actually making some decent shots. So again, I mean, of course, it goes without saying the PC version is going to be graphically better. I'm just happy that Ubisoft learned from their mistakes in the past and have actually increased the amount of overall just goodness in the PC version. Let us bring out all these cool elements. Let us customize the graphics the way it should be. Let us tweak what's best for our setup. Does it give people an unfair advantage? Probably. I would say that me being able to see farther and have a better refresh rate just overall probably made me a better combatant. However, I don't think that it was ultra noticeable, especially in a game where skill is going to take a backseat to gear. I don't care how good you are. If I have a bigger gun than you, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to win. So maybe that's negated slightly, but it didn't necessarily hamper from the game if you're kind of on the fence about which version to get. It looks gorgeous on any of them, and by console standards, it's by far one of the prettiest games I've seen in quite a while. Especially with all the attention that goes into all the little detail of all the just soaking in the world, even though it is a little bare. I talked about that earlier. But overall, a great game. I'm really looking forward to it. So shore up the rogue gameplay, add some more enemies, and I'm very excited for this game. I'm curious to see where it goes, and I'll be out there. My Ubisoft game ID is the same as my Xbox One game ID. That's Jassafat. So if you want to throw down, add me on Ubisoft to add me to your friends list. You can gladly enter the DBDG Guild, and we will gladly take you and show you the ropes of how to be an asshole in the Dark Zone when the game launches, because most likely we're going to be playing this game almost exclusively as a team. I doubt there's going to be much single player between us. I know at night we're going to get together and to go some gangbuster stuff, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's all I have. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.